Hi there, folks. This is WP-Tonic, episode 120. We got a great friend of the show, and I've been really looking forward to this interview all week, and that's Matt from the Matt Report. Hi there, Matt. Would you like to tell bigger introduction and tell the audience a bit about yourself if you really need to, Matt?
No, I don't. No, just kidding. Matt Medeiros from the Matt Report. I do another podcast called Plugged In Radio, talking about WordPress plugins. It's been on a little bit of a hiatus, even though it just started. Running a WordPress agency, which we'll probably talk about today. Sell a WordPress plugin and WordPress themes. We'll probably talk about today. And I also rant about WordPress stuff on Twitter.
Like to introduce yourself, John?
Sure thing. My name is John Locke, and I run a small WordPress consultancy in Sacramento called Lockdown Design.
And I'm the co-host of this show, and I'm going to be leading for the first part, and then John will be leading in the second part. I'm the founder of WP-Tonic, and if you've got legacy clients, which you don't really know what to do with, WP-Tonic can help you if you're a developer, designer. So, Matt, I've been really looking forward to the chat. So let's hit off with what the title was. And I think it's been a bit of a theme in your series, this series really, when you've been talking to people. And I like to say I think you've really come back this series really strong, and you've had some fantastic interviews, Matt. I've really listened to almost all of them, and I've really enjoyed them. But I chose this topic with your agreement because I felt there was a kind of theme in this season about where WordPress is going, and is it getting harder for developers, designers, agency owners like yourself to make a decent living out of WordPress? Let's start off. What's your kind of reaction to the broadness of the question, and any insights, Matt?
Sure. So I'm number one, I'm glad that you have found season 3 to be so much more enthralling than the last season. The last season was
I didn't say that. The last season was fantastic as well. Just saying it got even better.
No, listen, I'll tell you why. And really, like I said, in this season, really getting back to the roots of talking about WordPress and where people are in the WordPress space, in terms of their business and their journey in WordPress. So I'm actually glad that I did switch things up in season 2. Sort of, that was an experiment. I try to do everything experiment business-wise. I'm always trying new things and trying not to get stuck doing the same old thing over and over again, especially with podcasts, because people have such limited time. And we're already talking about a small niche thing of WordPress, right? So season 2 was sort of a mix of randomness, bringing on a dedicated host to it. Season 3, getting back to the roots, talking to people about WordPress. And it's what I was getting at is I'm glad there was a gap. I'm glad there was a good, solid, probably year when I didn't dig deep into what people were doing with WordPress, because it's a great contrast from season 1, official season 1, and even pre-season 1 of where people were, and sort of the uptick of freelancing, agency building, product building. Saw that curve going up. Then there was a plateau, which I never discussed on the airs because I changed the format. But now we're starting to see where people are either talking about a plateau or people have gotten the hell out, right? My episode that I have coming up next week, Rob Walling from Drip, and he just sold his business to Lead Pages, right? And I think what we're now seeing is not just WordPress, but anybody who started the digital business, with air quotes in the air. Anyone who started the digital business, we're seeing this sort of this trend where now people are like, you know what? It's either a great time to sell because people are investing in these types of things, or I've just built all I could do on my own, right? As most of us out there in the Twitter sphere of WordPress, they're freelancers or small partnerships or boutique agencies, right? So no more than maybe 6 people. Even if we're all contractors on a particular job. So I think what we're seeing is now people are like, yeah, I think everybody jumping on the WordPress ship and people being able to find their WordPress developer of choice or WordPress theme of choice, starting to get a little bit more, starting to get a little bit harder, right, for folks that are out there. And I do want to say, John, that, you know, noticing and you know, I think that you've both done a great job at focusing on your own businesses, right? So knowing what I know of both of you from, let's say, a year, 2 years, even 3 years ago, seeing where both of your businesses are at, you've become a lot more focused, a lot more narrowed down on the type of business that you want to go after versus I'm the WP person, come hire me, right? And I think you guys have both done a great job at that.
Oh, thank you, Matt.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks.
So, Matt,
the point of that, at of recognizing that out of both of you is it's getting harder, but I think a lot of us are starting to get a lot smarter about it too. So a year ago, 2 years ago, we could all be that WordPress person and we could still get business. Not that nobody's getting business now, but it's just a little bit easier, right? Now I think we're sort of falling into our own verticals, our own individual niches. Those of us that don't, it becomes a lot harder, right? For those of us that don't.
Yeah, I think I'm really pulled, I should say. I'm really pulled into directions here, Matt, because I think in some ways I sense it is getting harder. And I sense it's not totally that there's a lot of new people entering. So the actual level competition, because in reality, there's always, I think even 3 years ago, a lot of people entered the WordPress area, community, whatever you want to name it. But I think also there's a lot more other platforms, and I think last weekend when we had the virtual conference and Matt, I actually asked him a question and he was talking that he really saw a threat from Wix spending $40 million and other priority kind of platforms as a real threat to WordPress. Do you agree with him? Being you're the next highest Matt in the community, that these priority, that might be a factor, like the Wix and other similar platforms are starting now to encroach quite heavily in the bread and butter of the WordPress developer designer community.
Sure. I think there's a few things at play when you bring that up. Number one is anybody new who's coming into WordPress trying to build a website. They're trying to build a website for their business. Everybody is trying to do it themselves at first, right? Because it's just who we are, right? And like we're all entrepreneurs. We're all trying to bootstrap things. We're all trying to do it as affordable as possible, right? So we all try to go it alone. We try to do our taxes alone. We try to hire people without, either counsel or legal help. We do all these things without other professionals in our business. But I know the three of us, and maybe people watching this show, we get angry when people build their own website without talking to us first. We're like, "What are you doing? Hire a professional. We know what we're doing." The problem is WordPress is still very difficult, right? For the person who's just trying to do it themselves. And I see time and time again, people that I follow from my local network circle, right? There's a girl that works out of my co-working space who's, trying to do the internet thing. There are people that I consult in an accelerator program that I'm a part of. And some of those people are trying to do, get an ebook published or do some marketing stuff. And they all are told to use WordPress and they all give up on it because they don't know where. I don't even want to say they don't know where to start. I think there's enough information on where to start. And it usually starts at the host, wherever they host their website. But they don't know where to start putting the pieces of the puzzle together. EDD, opt-in monster, like all these things, get the right theme. And a lot of them spend the most amount of time not on their business plan, not on their marketing message, but on what color blue they want on their WordPress site. And trying to get it pixel perfect through another competitor's website or something else that they've seen. And they spend way too much time spinning their wheels doing that. And they get frustrated and they give up. So what does Wix and Squarespace do really well? They present themes really well, right? And Helen, the core contributor and lead for 4.7, I think it was yesterday or the day before, might have been yesterday, and she went on a tweet storm on what it's like to search for a theme in the repo and set it up. It's a nightmare, right? And it's not easy. I mean, not plugins, not like plugins are any better at this point, a little bit better maybe, but just not easy for somebody to spin up something quick. And everybody wants quick. Nobody wants to spend the time on it. And it's like insurance in a sense, where you don't know you need it until you need it, right? Right? And you don't know you need it until you've got your site on Wix. And all of a sudden, a year from now, your business is actually starting to kick up, right? You're starting to make some sales. You're starting to get some things going. And you're like, I heard about this SEO thing. Let me figure out how to optimize my pages. Or I heard about this company called Lead Pages and email marketing automation. How do I get that into my site? And then you hit the wall of Wix and Squarespace. I'm sure they're a little bit better now, but most of all the instructions you see is dive into the HTML, set it up, blah, blah, blah. And they're like, I can't do that with where I'm at. And then they say, oh, you should use a WordPress site. And then the wheel starts again, right? Or they finally have enough money to hire somebody. So is it a threat? Of course, of course. But it's not a global, air quotes again, global threat to WordPress. I don't think. And I think what we see is with Jetpack and the initiatives of .com and Calypso, we're in the infancy stage of how Matt envisions simplifying WordPress. That's my conspiracy theory, is all of this stuff is leading to an easier to spin up WordPress experience. So I think that's the long game on that.
Yeah, there's two questions that come to mind, but I'm going to go for my original one, and then we're going to come back because I've got a secondary question that's just coming in my mind, Matt. But let's go for the original question. I think that was a great insight, Matt. But I think we've dealt with the lower level, but I think we're in a pincer movement here a little bit, because let's go upscale. Let's go up to the $100,000 to $250,000 project plus, because you've got experience with that with higher education. They seem to still have a love affair with Drupal, and they still, to some extent, but obviously you're getting some traction in the education sector. So I thought you were the guy to ask. There still seems to be a preference to Drupal, really, rather than looking at WordPress. First of all, would you agree with that to some extent? And if you do, have you got any insights why that is?
So another one with a lot of threads of thought. So I can say that my experience in the web world dates back to Drupal 4 going into Drupal 5, and then Drupal 5 going to Drupal 6, where I managed a team of Drupal developers, right? So, and then now compare that to what I see in higher ed, and there are plenty of agencies, probably like Modern Tribe and the whole WP Campus movement, that have a lot of insights towards this. But I really think it is because there's two things. One, I think engineers that use Drupal for whatever reason are, at least in my experience, tend to be in the enterprise and higher ed space for whatever reason. There is a fan base there, for lack of a better word. There's a Drupal fan base there, for lack of a better word, from the engineering and technology teams. For whatever reason, the stigma is there. I was talking to a professor at a local university that I wanted to come talk at my WordPress meetup. And he said, I don't really know anything about WordPress anymore. I know some of my students use it for blogging, but I'm a Drupal guy. So this is, a really tenured marketing professor. He actually has a PhD. And I said, why did you lose sight of WordPress, and why do you use Drupal? And his answer was, because WordPress isn't responsive. And I was like, what do you mean? Like not fast enough? Like not, you don't get things quick enough? And he's like, no, it's just not mobile ready out of the box. So I'm like, no, that's themes. And it hasn't been that way for like 7 years. Like, I don't know, like it's not WordPress isn't responsive. It's whatever theme you used wasn't responsive. So I say that because people come in from all sorts of assumptions. And I think one major assumption on the technical level versus sort of that marketing end user level is Drupal, and there's probably a real technical argument towards this, but Drupal is more, and I'm going to get shot for this, but stable, right? It's more stable. It doesn't iterate as fast as WordPress, which comes with a whole host of other problems by doing that. But I feel like, I mean, look, I've been hearing about Drupal 8 for 3 years, I think, and it's still either just launched or not even launched yet. I'm not even sure. So it's a slow process. And I think that corporations like that a little bit more. Enterprise likes that. Doesn't like the fast iterations as much. Not to say that if you hired an agency, you got somebody who knows what they were doing, you couldn't solve that with WordPress, and plenty of people do. But I think that in the enterprise space, a lot of people sort of gravitate towards that. I was dealing with a large agency in Boston, and we spent hours quoting a project, working numbers out on an estimate for a project. And they came back to me and said that their client wanted Drupal. And that was it. That was the end of the discussion. I was like, well, I just wasted 2 days worth of work for nothing. And they wanted Drupal. And I said, I'd be happy to get on, the phone. But, they probably didn't even want them knowing that they were outsourcing to us for development. And the client just wanted Drupal. And I think in those spaces, it's a tough sell. And then I'd also add on to the fact that I would imagine that Acquia's sales team is much more aggressive in selling this enterprise solution to other enterprises. Whereas I don't think, and you can't quote me on this, I don't think the VIP team has an aggressive outbound sales team that Acquia certainly does. Because don't forget, Acquia drew the line in the sand dating back to, I think, like 2008 is when Acquia officially announced them, became a corporate enterprise-focused entity, and Drupal, was an open source project.
I think that's a great insight. They want to get Jake Goldsmith as head of it, don't they? He'll make it aggressive, wouldn't he?
Yeah.
in a good way.
Yeah.
I like Jake. Yeah, I think that was great insightfulness. I'm just going to give my pennies worth before we go to our break, actually. Because I used to, I wasn't an expert on it, but I did a few sites in the ExpressionEngine, and I was part of a little bit of the ExpressionEngine community because it was really very popular in the UK. And it's obvious, folks, I'm not a native Nevadan. So it was.
I never knew that's what people from Nevada were called. Nevadan?
London. And yeah, ExpressionEngine was really popular, and I think a lot of top tier agencies they tend to want to use ExpressionEngine or Drupal, basically, and I think a lot of that is on the smaller projects. They tend to go to ThemeForest, and they think anything below 10 grand. $10,000, they tend to hit the ThemeForest, and they think that's WordPress, where it isn't. It has its place and it's fine, but that is not WordPress, is it? The WordPress is a lot more than just ThemeForest, isn't it?
Right. And I just want to add real quick before you go to break or commercial. How much money do you guys make on this show? Jesus, I don't even have commercial breaks in the middle of mine. I would say that the people that I'm talking to, like in the higher ed space and even in the enterprise space, is still a good time at that level for WordPress. As difficult as it's becoming, and again, I'm not trying to paint the picture like, oh my God, the world is ending. But I think we just have to position ourselves slightly different than we were in the last few years. But I think a lot of enterprise folks who have been stuck in proprietary contracts, because I talk to a lot of people that are getting out of that. They're looking at WordPress and they're saying, wow, I can save a boatload of money on my car insurance by switching to WordPress. And they are because there are a lot of archaic systems out there that people are paying ridiculous amounts of money for, and they can finally move to WordPress, which I think is a huge boon for them.
That's great, mate. So we're going to go for our break, folks, and we'll be back in a minute. And John, my co-host, will start off the conversation. Before we go to a break, remember, folks, please subscribe to iTunes. It really helps the show. And if you found this interview really interesting, hopefully you have, give us a review. It really does help the show on iTunes. So we'll be back, and my co-host John Locke will be answering the first question. Back in a minute. We're coming back, folks, and John's going to take over, and we're going to delve some more into this fascinating subject with a great friend of the show, Matt from the Matt Report.
Thanks, Jonathan. Matt, I feel like you and I have a lot in common, and I think we share a similar strength that a lot of people in the web development world maybe don't have, and that's we both have a blue-collar background in having to do sales and not just writing code. And there's kind of two ways that you can really make money in the WordPress space, and that's either through products or it's through client services. But I think in both areas, and especially in client services, there's a need for positioning and marketing that isn't being addressed. And so, the main topic is it getting harder to make money in the sandbox? And I think in a way it's yes, but I think if you're differentiated, the answer is no. So speak a little bit on that. Like, how important is the sales, marketing, and voice?
Yeah. So look, I think there's always going to be a place for people who come knocking on your door and say, I just want the lowest price, right? Like, I just want the lowest price. I don't care. And one of my favorite pastimes is actually going through the WordPress jobs board, right? To kind of see the reality that's out there at the real low end, right? And it would be interesting to see if people could actually serve that market, because I think with even the right messaging for a lot of the people who post things like, people who post things like, give me a website for $200. I think with a little education, a lot of the folks that are posting those questions, it would go a long way, and they actually might invest a little bit more. So at first glance, what we do anyway, when a low budget project comes in, is we will spend some time, small amounts of time, trying to educate, seeing if they even want to be educated, even if it's just through a look. You don't have the budget for our team to come in, but what we can do is like a site audit, kind of give you a professional opinion on where you should go, right? And that's just spinning a little bit of the marketing message, right? So it's not just saying no, it's not just saying find someone else. Maybe if you're open to it, maybe an hour or two of consulting will get you on the right path, right? Or maybe we can even answer the question and you can go and do it yourself. Tools are getting a little bit easier to use for folks, and maybe they want to spend a little bit of time doing it themselves. But John, like we were saying at the top of the show, is I think you've done a great job sort of funneling the message of your own website, right? Of people coming to your website and saying, what is it that you can do? And I think it was interesting because around 2008, 2009, I think what you saw was this mass exodus from going from a bigger agency, or like, let me put it as an example, in my local market. A lot of the businesses that we serviced used to get their website built by their IT company, right? And I think we've all seen that. I think we've all been there before, where it's like, well, they came and they fixed my printer and they said that they would do my website for me too. So, we just do the website with them, and there's no creative talent, there's no marketing message, none of that stuff. And they don't even have time to fix their website when something happens, and they charge me $200 and it drives me crazy. So I think there was this exodus of people going, you know what, I'm going to go away from that all-you-can-eat company, whether it's an agency or an IT company. I'm going to find a boutique agency or somebody who specializes in my website. And I think a lot of us got stuck in that, or we didn't adapt as time passed. So what do I mean by that? I think a lot of us focused on WordPress development, WordPress design, and we didn't pivot to watch for marketing automation, mobile apps, and start to become a little bit more of the all-you-can-eat to a degree, right? And find that vertical that we could really excel at. I did a little bit, and look, it's not easy, right? It's not easy. You just one day, you don't just wake up and say, you know, I'm just going to focus on this vertical. It's very tough to do that. You have to have a really good team, and you have to have really good clients in place to be able to do that. So we were lucky enough to, you know, stay with higher ed and publishing clients, traditional publishers, magazines, newspapers, because those are the markets we sort of got a lot of, and we kind of figured it out, and we know how to speak their language because that's important too. But I think in the early years of the WordPress gold rush, a lot of folks, you know, sort of hunkered down and said, I do WordPress design and development. And then over the years, it got a little bit more difficult because they never wanted to, one, market themselves, but two, adapt to the market and say, well, I learned this thing called marketing automation and how I integrate that, right? I'm not a fan of productized services as much as everybody else loves them. I do to a degree. So just in case people don't know, it's like you take this gigantic service and you funnel it down into like this to-do list, and you can build a website for $500. Like, I get it. But I feel like a lot of people who do get into that situation are leaving too much money on the table, right? We talked about this the other day with real estate agents, right? It's like, well, I can done for you website for $500. Well, guess what? Yeah, it works for one client, but then the next client walks through the door and they're like, well, I don't like that over there, and I don't like this over here, and I want this content area to be bigger. I want my images to pop out. And you're like, no. My $500 package is just what you're looking at right here. And they go, well, I don't really want that, right? Well, okay, fine. Now then you start going, well, for a couple more hours, I'll just tweak it around for you. And then you tweak it and they go, well, you know what? Well, I like it the other way. And you're like, yeah, I could have just sold this thing for $5,000 and just got my values, you know, sold it on value and got paid a little bit more money to get the stuff done. So I think that folks really have to find the particular client that they have synergy with at the same time, right? And don't sell yourself too short. I think a lot of folks sell themselves too short with the services that they provide people, me included, right? There are plenty of times where I've sat back and looked at numbers and said, I'm going to go with like $20,000 on this project. And then they come back and they were like, yes. And I was like, Jesus, that was so easy. You know, what happens if I asked for 40? Would it, you know, would we had a little bit of negotiation going on here? Maybe I would have got it down to 35. Gary Vaynerchuk, for those that follow him, when he started his agency, which is now like 1,000-person mega agency. That's how he started pricing. He started at 10, and then he went to 20, and then he asked the next person for 30, and then he went to 50, and somebody told him to jump off a bridge. So he's like, okay, never mind, not 50, 40, and they said yes. Right, so that's how he sort of figured out pricing in the agency world. One of the great things about the agency game is it's a game, right? It's about relationships. It's about delivering, number one, but you can set your price, and if your customer finds value in that, and you're actually providing the value, so be it.
No, I think those are excellent points. You know, when you're talking about finding a vertical where you fit in, where you can speak the language of the customer, but something you're also saying there is you have to run your business like a business. Like, the goal of your business is to stick around for your clients to where you can service them in the future. And I do think a lot of people undervalue their services, or maybe they don't push their boundaries enough. You know, how much practice does that take to kind of like keep pushing your boundaries and knowing your worth and being able to deliver that value? And I think you touched on it a little bit before, but, you know, being an all around like consultant instead of just a technician.
I've never walked into Walmart and said, man, I love that store. That was great. I can't wait to go back, right? Never, ever. But Walmart has the lowest prices. I walk into Apple and I have fun. It's exciting. There's new products. There's always something nice to touch. And you walk in and you're like, here's my phone. This isn't an iPhone, but I used to have one. Here's my phone. It broke. And then somebody takes it. They take it apart. They fix it. And they come back and they go, it's all set. Here you go. Right? Most of the time, they just give you another one, right, on your phone, if it's, you know, relatively within the warranty. And it just works. You walk in, give it to them, they hand it back. You get an email receipt, you're done, you're out, whatever. And you're like, that was a great experience, but I paid a boatload of money for this phone. But you paid a lot of money and you got great service. You know, anything goes with any kind of, you know, high-end luxury. You fill in the blank. You know, whatever luxury car you might drive or want to drive or buy, a Mercedes, BMW, whatever, that experience is there, but you're paying for it 9 times out of 10. And it's very important that you find the right clients, and you can only do that through trial and error. I wish there was a secret sauce, you know, to tell people, but there isn't. And the biggest thing that you can do is get out there and keep selling, bringing in projects, and understanding that you have to evaluate every customer. So it's like you cast out a net to go fishing. You pull in a bunch of fish and you go, this one's too small, you throw it back. This one's big, perfect. This one's right on the edge. Let's see if we can get away with it, right? And we throw that into the boat. We try to keep going on. When you push the boundaries, though, it is important that you do provide that value. So you have to be cautious of that, right? So you can't just like fake it till you make it and like, oh yeah, I'm gonna take a project with you know, I just sold a $40,000 project. Or no, let's even like bring it down. I sold a $15,000 project. Can't wait to deliver on this. If you go into that meeting and you're telling them about, you know, their deadlines, because anybody with a $15,000 budget, they probably have a good deadline. It's not like whenever you get to it. It's going to be like for a sales cycle coming up or a big marketing thing coming up or whatever, or they need it for back to school or whatever. You have to deliver on that. And you have to keep them in the communicative loop of telling them what's going on with the project, because that is detrimental to keeping the client happy. And what will happen is, if it's like your first $15,000 project, but you got a whole bunch of other like $500 projects in the pipeline, and that's dragging you down, you're going to lose sight of this $15,000 project. And they're not going to be happy because you're not going to perform your best. So you have to be ready. You have to be ready to deliver the value on that, especially in bigger business, enterprise clients. They're hiring you because of the continuity. They want to know that, let's say you're the lead developer. If something happens to you, nothing even bad, but all of a sudden you're like, oh, I got a vacation going on. They go, okay, who do we talk to when you're gone? You better say, well, my junior dev or my project manager or this other person. They don't want you to be like, okay, see you later. We'll work on your time. No, they want you to deliver, and they expect your company to be there even if you're not. Which goes back to your sustainability thing, right? You want to be profitable because you want your customers to tell you to be profitable because they want you around, right? Another presentation that I do is I usually show, or I used to show when I was doing more sort of small business consulting, is I would show a dollar bill. I did this talk in Miami. So show a dollar bill, and I would say 80 or 60% of it goes to payroll, 20% of it goes to my overhead, so my rent and electricity. So it was like a picture, right? It's just like it's in a slide deck. A slide deck, picture of a dollar bill, sliced into three pieces. 60% goes to payroll, 20% goes to overhead, my electricity, my rent, and 20% goes to profit. So I would say, Mr. or Mrs. Customer, for every dollar you spend with me, 20 cents of that is my profit. And that goes back into running the business or reinvesting into the business to grow the business and stay afloat. Because the last thing you want to do is go back and knock on your neighbor's door to hire his or her nephew who lives in the basement and say, help me build my website again. We've already been down that path before. So just be real, right? Just be real with customers. I don't even try. I don't even try to do proposals anymore. I just cut to the chase. I just say it's going to cost you whatever number. I think it might cost 20 grand, 15 grand, 10 grand, whatever it is. Like, does that, can you get back to me on that? I'll get back to you on it. I'll let you know like some of the stuff we're going to do, but I think you're looking at like 20,000. How do you know that? Because I've been doing it for 10 years, right? What you've asked me to do, I've done a million times, right? And I can tell like everything that we're doing. I'm not going to go and go my Excel chart and plot all this stuff out for you. I know it's going to be roughly 20 grand. Are you comfortable with that or not? You know? I don't know.
I guess that's a good point. Getting, qualifying them like that, like, finding out if they have the budget and if they're a good fit. Definitely, that's part of getting like a good client base. Are there any other things that you would say to people who are looking to grow, or they're wondering like, how do I make this a living? I've heard there's a gold rush, but I'm trying to figure it out. And what's your advice? I know what I would say to people, but I want to hear what, you have to say.
I'm glad you brought that up because I'm actually writing an ebook about this right now.
Oh, very good. Awesome.
So I would say that number one, you, as cliche as it sounds, like you have to set that goal of what it is that you want to get out of this business, right? Yes, you want to make some money. Yes, you might be in a 9-to-5 job with a 4-hour commute every day and you're like, this sucks. I don't want to be in this cubicle anymore. I want to do my own thing. I feel like I have creative energy. I think I can help other people get their message out there too. So define what that goal is for you. If you know you always want to be just a solo freelancer, what's that number? 40 grand a year, 60 grand a year, 100 grand a year, right? What is that number? If you think you want to grow an agency, a boutique agency, that becomes slightly more difficult because you're going to have to hire people. And you're going to have to start thinking about a lot more money and a lot more pain, right? So if you look at web dev studios and you're like, that's so awesome, like I want to be like them, that doesn't come without a lot of work and a lot of years and getting lucky sometimes. But being a freelancer is try to find the person that you relate to best, right? Try to work with those customers as much as possible. But know that if you're quitting your job, let's say, you're going to have to take on clients that you probably aren't going to like, but they're going to pay the bills for you, right? And that's okay. You just know that one out of every 3 clients, that's going to be a portfolio piece for you. Because ultimately, that's what it's going to boil down to. At least in my total guess off the top of my head, is 1 out of every 3 clients is a real home run. They let you do whatever you wanted to do. They give you creative control. I'm not saying the other clients are bad, but it probably just wasn't the best experience. And you might not have liked the outcome because they wanted to control it a little bit more. They paid you fine, no problem. You just weren't happy with the project. Find the clients that you can get the most. Where do I get those clients? You got to get out. You got to get out. Get out from behind Twitter and go find these people. Unless I don't even want to say. I'm not even going to give you another example. You're going to get out and find these people. Where do I find these people? Go to meetup.com. Try to find a meetup. Try to find some kind of networking event in your area. Cold call people. I don't care. Like you just have to find the right people. What about this content marketing thing? I heard I could just attract people through content marketing. Yes, it's the same damn problem, right? Because if you haven't done it before, you start that content marketing wheel. The day you hit publish, you've only got 0 people reading it, right? Except for maybe yourself. So you've got 1 person reading it, and that's going to take a lot of time too. It's a balancing act for sure. You want to do all these things. You want to get it all out there. And then if you're somebody who's like me, not a developer, right? Yeah, you're technical enough. You're a web professional, right? You understand these things. You understand what Facebook means. You understand how to run a Facebook ad. You might be able to link that up to a landing page in somebody's WordPress site. You know how to install Yoast SEO. Find the tools that you are comfortable using. Beaver Builder, Conductor, Genesis and Studio Press framework, themes from iThemes, whatever it is, Backup Buddy to back up your stuff, whatever it might be. Jetpack. Jetpack's honestly becoming increasingly better with 4.x right around the corner. Find the tools that you're comfortable with, and don't be afraid to spend a little money.
Yeah, true. Totally true.
Buy a theme pack, buy a good plugin, and reinvest that into the company.
I think that was fantastic. We're We're going to end the formal podcast, folks, but hopefully Matt is going to agree to stay on for another 10, maybe 15 minutes. He's a busy man. He's got a young family now. But hopefully we'll be continuing the discussion, which you'll find on the WP-Tonic website with a full set of a full transcription of what we've been talking about on the show. Plus, you can go to the WP-Tonic YouTube channel, which my co-host has been improving drastically. We're getting a lot more subscribers. To wrap up, Matt, thank you so much for coming back to the show. Matt, I just want to give you Matt's one of my favorite people in WordPress because he was one of the first people that agreed to come on the show when I started over 2 years ago. And it was quite gracious of him to agree because he didn't know me and we were just starting out. And you've contributed so much. I've learned a lot from your podcast, Matt, and I think you really have contributed an enormous amount to the WordPress community. And I just want to thank you for that, Matt.
Thanks for thanking me, and thanks for having me here. It's a real pleasure.
Right. It's been a real pleasure. How can people get hold of you?
They can find me on Twitter at Matt Report, MATT Report, or mattreport.com.
Thanks, Matt. And John, how can people get hold of you?
They can find me at my website, which is Lockdown Design. There's a silent E after the lock. And you can find me on Twitter, lockdown_. How did the fine people get a hold of you, Jonathan?
I answer my email, all the email that comes to WP-Tonic, a bit like Pippin Williams. And so if you email support or Jonathan at wp-tonic.com, you'll get a message back from me the same day or next day. Or at Jonathan Denwood, that's my Twitter handle. And people have always remarked that I reply to that pretty quick. So, So like I say, we're ending this part of the show, folks. We'll be back on Saturday for the live round table, which is getting really popular, getting a lot of good feedback from people about our round tables on Saturday. You can join us on that on Fire Talk and be part of the discussion. So please join us at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time on Fire Talk. And you can be part of the roundtable discussion. And we also will have another great interview next Wednesday with somebody part of the WordPress community. See you later, folks. Bye. Right, so we finished that. That's the recorded part. So I think we really covered some really interesting things. We got a couple I don't know how to pronounce the gentleman's name.
Eduardo has a question. You want me to? Okay.
Yeah, go on.
Eduardo Sanchez Hidalgo Urias says, I think the WordPress world is about to change in a big way. Where in the WP development world do you think the opportunity will be? And what he means is the new stuff that is maturing.
Sure. So yes. I think that things are definitely changing, and they're changing rapidly. But there's a slight, bump in the road here, and that is with the REST API. And the episode that went out this week was with Rachel Baker. Episode of Matt Report was with Rachel Baker, and we talked about some of the difficulties and the challenges of getting the REST API into WordPress. But she also debunks that myth a little bit and sort of explains what the REST API can be used for. In developer speak, and some of the stuff is slightly above my head for sure, but definitely it's a definitely good listen if you want to learn about the REST API. That's going to change things a little bit. It's going to, and not right away, but it will be slowly maturing as if and when it ever gets into core. I think it will be. I think it's just going to take some time. But that's going to be app. It's going to be app development. It's going to be app centric. It's going to be about, I think, anyway, WordPress like we use WordPress for posting blog posts now, we'll be using WordPress to interface for applications. It's still a little ways off, or a lot of ways off, but I think that we're going to see some of that start to mature a little bit. And I think we're going to see, to the detriment a little bit, of fragmentation of WordPress. So if you watch WordSesh over the weekend, Brian Krogsgaard sort of hinted at hinted at this with, the decoupling of the WordPress admin to the front end of WordPress. Now we have all of these various stakeholders that are interested in WordPress because it runs their platform or their sort of little mini ecosystem. I think we see some of that with Rainmaker. I think some of the web hosts are going to start to invest in a lot of that stuff because they're going to want to spin off WordPress in their own sort of flavor. It might not be like, oh my God, WordPress is forking, but I think the experience of WordPress and how people experience WordPress is going to become controlled by other people, right? Hosts for sure, and other companies that innovate like Rainmaker. But for a dev, I think plugins are still hot. Plugins is still a great way to do things with WordPress that WordPress doesn't do otherwise, and it's still a hot space. And anything in the mobile sector, again, with WordPress and apps, I think is going to be a great thing for people to focus on.
That was fantastic. I don't know if I'm going to ask you this one. I'll be interested to see what your response is. Over the past couple of weeks, there's been a lot of talk on Twitter, on the tavern. I also, over the weekend, asked Matt a question about this, and it's about a few people have been saying things about the core development team and how outsiders are treated or input outside, and how it's dealt with, and how decisions in general are made by the WordPress Foundation. And and one of our panel, Morten Hendrickson, has posted a lot of stuff about what his feelings are about this. So I'll put this towards Matt, and he said he didn't think there was any real problem. These are volunteers, and basically he seemed, and I am putting words in his mouth a little bit, that this was in some ways a lot of hot air. What's your take on this?
So, where to begin? In the episode, so listen, I think that it's and this has been said before. I'm not the first one to say this. This is a human problem. This is not a WordPress problem, right? So there is, you've got the tavern, and just if you look at that article, them versus us, or us versus them, I forget which way it was. Just look at the comments alone, right? In that blog post, look at the comments that go throughout the different things, which is amazing to me because there's so much. I mean, some of it's just literal hate, right? That goes on here. It's just, it is actually quite disgusting, and it's just like but why? Humans. That's why. Because when you gather enough of us around this one topic, this is the stuff that happens. There's no way to have this, everyone loves each other, everyone helps each other kind of movement with this many people. You can see it on the tavern comments. You can see it in Advanced WordPress Facebook group, right? When you have 18 or 20,000 people in there, you can't post one thing without somebody else saying something else, right? Totally against it. And what's actually quite laughable as a side note is when somebody posts like a premium plugin, and they're like, oh yeah, for $100 I can do this. And then somebody chimes in like, $100, I'd never pay that ever, right? Like, I'll just do it myself. Well, it's like, Jesus, like, all right, fine, you will. But when you have somebody as intelligent and as capable as a Rachel Baker, helping lead the REST API movement, along with the rest of her intelligent, capable team, and other people can't get a project through like this. It's not, like in my blog post, I said, sometimes it's us versus them. It's them versus them. It's us versus them, right? Even the top tier people can't agree on things. So it's not just top tier people looking down at the little people, right? So again, to me, again, growing up in car sales, if somebody says, and plenty of people do, they say, there are plenty of developers out there who hate my show because they think I sensationalize this whole thing, which is laughable. And I don't care, right? I've heard comments at WordCamps. I don't care. I just keep coming back. And I think that if somebody is shied away from contributing to core WordPress you haven't tried hard enough. You haven't tried hard enough. If your feelings got hurt, I mean, so long as it's not borderline threatening somebody's, life or personal well-being or whatever. If you get upset because somebody else doesn't agree with your, pull request, make another one. Try it again. Find somebody else who wants to do that, and and try to have somebody else champion it with you. If people aren't getting along, find more people to do whatever it is you're trying to do and approach it in a more sensible, sane way, if that's what you have to take. But if you're just like, I wanted to change this on the interface and they didn't like that, well, maybe it wasn't a good idea. Maybe you'll find somebody else to champion that idea with you if you think it's that valuable. And that's my 2 cents. I mean, to me, I agree with Maureen. I don't think it's an us versus them scenario at all.
No, I agree with everything you said. It's my take. I have been shocked by the kind of tone in some of the threads around this subject, and especially that last thread, which goes on forever. And I've got 2 businesses which I'm trying to develop plus make a living. I haven't got a young family like you, Matt. So I haven't got that responsibility. But I've got a lot of things going in my life, so I just couldn't spend all my life just reading this ongoing rant on the thing.
And that's the thing. Like a lot of people. So the person listening to this says, "Matt, you're an idiot." I'm trying to, whatever reason is, I'm trying to get through to the core team because XYZ needs to change or whatever. Look, I understand that you can bang your head against the wall, and to the point where you burn out. And you're either going to burn out and I don't mean this in a bad way, but you're going to burn out and give up on whatever that is, and so be it, right? So be it, because like you were just saying, is you have other things you need to focus on. You need to have a living. You need to you have your life. You have all this other stuff. And if you're going to let this project burn you out, it's not good, right? It's not good. So focus on something else. I mean, they don't even like me in the theme review team channel, right? Because I'm the guy that looks at, my tickets come through with the themes and I'm not a developer. So you talk about a guy, you get a guy who doesn't shut up, who has his own podcast, who's not a developer, goes into a room with a bunch of developers, right? There's probably a joke in there somewhere. And when I go into the theme review team and I say, why did my theme just get rejected? Because we had a Twitter link in our options panel, and they say, well, Twitter links aren't allowed anymore. The one-click follow links aren't allowed anymore. And then I go to, what do? I go into top 20 themes, and I look at all the top 20 themes with all one-click Twitter things. I say, this theme has it, this theme has it, this theme has it. Why can't I have it? And they're like, that's not what we're about. We're not policing all the other themes. This is the new way of doing things. And I rant all the time, but I don't give up on it. Right? I don't give up on WordPress, and I say, fine. At the end of the day, fine, whatever, and I move on. But I'll be back.
That's right.
Back.
But what do you? So this is. I think we're getting to the key of it here, Matt. I just want to quickly, and then we got a question from Dave, and then we'll wrap it up. I think you just touched upon it. I think what was said, a lot of it was well over the top. But like a lot of things, there is some essence of truth. And you just kind of said it. And I'm a bit more of a developer than probably you. I haven't been doing too much. I'm a bit rusty. I stopped almost 2 years ago because I've been concentrating on other things, on the marketing and that, and I need to get back. But I did a fair bit of development. But I really hate a kind of snotty developer attitude that because you're not a developer, you got no real voice, and I think it's very ungracious and very detrimental to the WordPress community that and I'm not saying there's a lot of developers like one which technically I think he's probably one of the let's have a look at Pippin Wheels. And I don't get that attitude from Pippin at all. I don't get that kind of crap from Pippin. He's one of the most gracious, knowledgeable developers I know, and you just don't get this kind of nonsense from somebody of the quality from Pippin. So when you do come across it, I think it's just a personal weakness myself.
Yes, right. I mean, it's knowledge is power, and people who are knowledgeable feel like they are more powerful in these scenarios, and because they have control over something like core contributor team. And again, I'm not saying this, I'm just using this as an example. You have the power to contribute to core. There's an element of, yeah, I mean, this is mine, this is yours. You know, and it happens. We learn this in elementary school when the cool kids sit at the other table and, you know, another group sits at this table. Like, people, we've been doing this for years. So, you know, some people just have to look past that, and I know it can be tough. You have to develop that thick skin, and you know, you're gonna press on. I mean, there are plenty of people that, you know, there are developers that don't like that there are commercial themes and plugins, right?
It's just crazy stuff, isn't it?
They have their own offerings, right? That they sell something, so it's like, well, I have a donation. I have like a donation thing, or I got this other thing going, and that's how I try to make money, right? But then you hear them like 6 months, a year from now, and they're like, man, it's not easy, you know, making ends meet. I don't know. Maybe you should try, right? Like, charge a little bit more money. You know, we've all been doing it. I don't know where you've been. You know, it's just like, God.
Yeah, I think, but just to finish off this subject, I think on the other side, I think what Moulton has been saying, and I've been consistent, because the last WordCamp that was in San Francisco, I asked Matt a question in public, and it's this question about democracy, not democracy telling the volunteer developers of the core what to do technically, but democracy where it comes to some kind of roadmap, or where the community might have some input about some roadmap in an adult, considerate way. And if you're really an open community, I don't think anybody can say anything against democracy. I know it's messy, and sometimes businesses have to have an owner. But when you get in such a large community, I think having some democracy and some representation in it isn't a terrible, but it's finding a balance, isn't it? Or what do you think? What do you think? I'm just talking a load of old crap?
Listen. So I think that in one of the recent blog posts I put out was F platforms give me WordPress. So for all of the stuff, right? I have the same questions. One of the ways I got, Matt Mullenweg on my podcast was when he said Jetpack was one of the shining reasons of the growth of WordPress. And I was like, that's the biggest bullshit comment I've ever heard in my life. Right. So, so I commented on it on the Tavern, and I paraphrasing a little bit, but not really, as I said, that's a real slap in the face to developers. And I have only been in the community for, 6 years, not even like everybody else who's been here for, over a decade or whatever. And that's what got him onto the show. I have the same questions as you, and I say this in my piece. Nobody from WordPress helps me, right? Nobody at Automatic or WordPress Foundation or VIP helps me get more clients, which then in turn helps spread WordPress a little bit more. I know I don't get that help. Nobody helps me. But I keep doing it because of the idea behind what WordPress stands for, right? And the ability for me to either control my own stuff, can save my content and all that stuff, and not go to a platform like a Squarespace or a Facebook, that kind of thing. So for all of its imperfections, I'm down with the perfections that it has in terms of that. But I have the same questions, like who's this? Why can't we have the REST API, right? Where is the roadmap, right? When people say, why is Drupal getting more of a nod in the enterprise space? Well, there's probably a better road, and I don't know because I haven't looked at it in a while, but there's probably a better defined roadmap for the enterprise that lives out there that there isn't one for WordPress, right? .blog just opened up today.
Seen that.
or not today, yesterday or whatever. So, you know, I go and I try to I'm just messing around. I forget what domain I put in. It was like $100,000 to hold it, right? But the API is exposed, right? The REST API is exposed. You can, with a little bit of developer logic, my lead developer showed me, you can inspect element and see like the premium flag being triggered and the price point that's being triggered. Well, Matt.blog was $250. What a surprise. So, and of course, Matt has Matt.blog, right? So somebody's like, oh, you're trying to register Matt.blog? I'm like, no, Matt's already got it, and he got a hell of a bargain, right? Because, well, it's his. And a whole bunch of other people have their .blog domains, but it's not really on the open market yet. Whatever. Like, I really want, like, I'm clamoring for a .blog domain.
You can let stuff like that drive you crazy.
You know, or you could just not.
If you want,
right.
Or not. It is up to you. I just got because Dave Bell put some things just to wrap it up because I think I took up. Do you think I took too much of this post show up with really that? I think it was worthwhile talking about it, and I think you gave some great insights, Matt. I was at two minds even to bring it up, really. Go on, John. What's Dave been saying about?
Oh, he was just saying, will WooCommerce be hosted WooCommerce be a thing in the near future, and will it be available as self-hosted like Cart66 or just WordPress.com or Jetpack?
Good old Dave. Yeah, I mean, I think it. You know, I think it's going to happen. I mean, it's inevitable. You know, it's inevitable, and you know, Shopify just recently released their point of sale system in the UK. I think I tweeted that the other day. Again, the person that asked about development opportunities before, I mean, that's just tremendous, right? With WooCommerce, creating point of sales, creating anything in the e-commerce space, especially mobile or app development. You know, it's going to be huge. But for sure, I mean, Automatic's looking at that, you know, as one of the major opportunities for acquiring WooCommerce is definitely self-hosted stuff, or hosted stuff for WooCommerce.
Can I ask one more final question, or we wrap it up? Because I know you want to get on to your family, but hopefully you're going to find this. I'll be fascinating to hear your response to this. Now, your own plugin composer, conductor. Sorry,
that's okay. People call it composer all the time. People call it a piece of junk. People call it composer, whatever.
Yeah, conductor.
Call it whatever. Just buy it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I bought a license. I've used it on a couple of projects. I actually was one that I bought when you had your initial great deal. I bought into it. It's a great offer because I get free updates and it's there. I bought it because, you know, I really learned a lot more about buying, you know, supporting you in a way. Because, you know, you tried to follow the right, you tried to do it the right way, you know, the official WordPress way. And then you got something like Beaver Builder appears, and, you know, great people, great developers, great product, but they did it their way, kind of, and then you got something like Elegant Themes with Divi. Have you got any insights about all this and any, any kind of things that have been going through your mind about it all?
There is. So Conductor is really born out of the way that we want, like the way that we did it with our customers, and that's the way we want to do it, right? It was built specifically for people who wanted to control the look and feel of their content consistently, and not a page builder, but a display builder. And therein lies the rub, because there's not a lot of people that want that kind of granular control or need that kind of granular control. But you're right. Beaver Builder is a great product. Even Divi 3.0 coming out looks like they're reinvesting to be a better product. And I give them all the credit in the world, right? Because a lot of people are looking for that building experience until they're not, right? Until they're not. And there will be a point in time where maybe their website starts getting more traffic, or eventually what will happen is somebody in the marketing department wants a special content layout on a page and they can't do it because there's a builder on top of it and there's all this other overhead that comes into it. But for the time being, it got them to where they needed to go. Trust me, it's definitely an interesting lesson, and we're revamping Conductor. We just had another meeting about it today, coming out with a new add-on that's starting to shift the way that Conductor is used, but still sticking to our guns, right? We're still sticking to our guns on our core product. We want to be able to display content within WordPress in an easy to use way, right? We're not trying to build a page, but we want to make beginner people feel a little bit more powerful, right? Almost feel like a developer, but not really. Or if you're a developer, feel a little bit more like you can save time. And give a sort of drag and drop to somebody without all the overhead, or the kitchen sink, as I like to say, of all these other plugins. Now, look, I think that I'm also early to the game, and WordPress isn't ready for it. So when the customizer started to become the de facto way of customizing your WordPress site, which still isn't, but it's supposed to be, at least in terms of the theme team, the theme review team. We were like, we're all in. We're all in doing it the WordPress way. And we were hoping that really WordPress would have iterated faster on the customizer. And I think not until this last version did we see some performance enhancements.
Can I say something, Matt? I really like your plugin. Yep. I think it's. I just hate the composer.
Right. The customizer.
I just hate it. Customizer. Sorry. I just hate it. I just really hate it, but I love your plugin. Be quite truthful, unless I'm forced to, then it's the only reason why I go there is because your plugin, basically. But I just do not. And
it's our own hard-headedness that said, let's not build a new interface for somebody to build a page, because that fragments the WordPress experience. So we didn't want to turn to our clients and use something like a Beaver Builder, and then they go in and they see Beaver Builder logos. They've got this whole new interface. It does all these different things. But then let's say they install, I don't know, WooCommerce or whatever, and WooCommerce is certainly going to use the customizer because it's part of WordPress. Let's just use that as an example. I don't want to fragment, I don't want my customer looking at a WooCommerce instructions manual going, okay, go to the customizer, go here. And then they go and do that. And then they go, well, how do I edit my page again? Oh yeah, Matt told me to go to this Beaver Builder thing, and I go to and now the Beaver Builder is this whole new interface. I'm not saying it's bad, just two different interfaces. People starting to experience WordPress two different ways. And what happens if another plugin comes up with their own interface now? So now there's three interfaces, right? We said, let's just be bullish on the customizer and core WordPress widgets. Because people could take widgets to another theme. Part of the problem people would always say about builders was, well, if they switch themes, they lose everything, which is true. But with widgets, we can take that to another theme because it's part of WordPress. Now people say, widgets suck. Well, that's fine, but this is what WordPress gives me. And I'm trying to stay as close to WordPress as possible. For better or worse. And really, truth be told, it's worse for me. It's been a difficult, but I admire you for sticking to your, we're gonna stick it out. I just had I'm sorry, John. I've taken up all the time, haven't I, John? With the post podcast, I apologize.
It's okay. Fire Talk is gonna probably kick us pretty soon here, and Matt's.
Well, we're gonna end it anyway because Matt. Well, Matt, thank you so much for joining us. I hopefully it's not been boring. I think we've covered some really great stuff, haven't we? And
definitely.
And
I would give him 5 out of 5 stars.
I should have worn that.
I do. And just to finish off, like I said in the podcast, thank you for your contribution to the WordPress community and for the podcast. It was one of the first ones that I started to listen when I decided to get back into web design when I moved to America. and I've learned a lot from it. And thank you so much for continuing it. Like I say, I think this series you've ramped it up even higher, and the guests and the insights have been fantastic, Matt.
I'm glad somebody's listening.
And I'd like to just finish off. Matt is one of the nicest, down-to-earth people. The thing about podcasting is you really get insight about what people are really like, get some inkling by the way they treat you post-show and their decorum. And Matt's one of the nicest, straightforward and guys that's been on the podcast. I can vouch on that. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.
Right then, we're going to end it now, folks. Kick me out, co-host.
All right.
Remove
Be
me.
gone.
Remove me. Unleash the Trojans, the Driffins, whatever
The Krakens.
the Krakens. I just love that plug-in. I just love it.
Unleash the Trojans is for another show.
Yes.
Yeah.
And with that, we can't end on a higher note. So, all right.
No, we can't.
Thanks
really.
everyone for
Sorry.
showing up.
Oh,
See you later, gentlemen.
peace.